Welcome to Mount Pleasant Live. I'm Mike Heaton, your host. I'm here with Nick Steffen once again. I always get it wrong. Steffens with an S, isn't it?
Yes.
Steffens once again. It is Tuesday. What is today? Tuesday, May
16th.
16th. I'll admit it's all a blur. We've been moving our house, as our listeners know, trying to get everything all moving. And I'm telling you, Nick, I have muscles I haven't felt. In years, but you're doing it too. You're moving too.
We moved Jade in, and I have the bruises and scars to prove it. I want to. This is how
from moving boxes. So like your back is hurting, or you like bumping yourself going upstairs. What are the bruises and scars coming from?
I'm gonna see if I can. I'm not gonna take my shirt off on air. Don't worry.
Okay, fair.
We're gonna see if I can show. Got a nice little shot.
Oh, ouch!
That's what happens when you move about 5 foot long by like 1.5 foot tall tank for a ball python.
That'll do it.
I think it's a bicep tear.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should probably work out more.
Okay. That's
And also with us in the studio today is Trey Hager. That's awesome. The pastor at First Presbyterian Church here in Mount Pleasant, and all around involved in everything guy who I have incredible amount of respect for, and I think most of the community does. I can't believe I just said that out loud though, Trey. So we can erase this later, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Trey's a good golfing buddy of mine, so I don't like to give him too many compliments because he might get ahead. He might start thinking he's confident on the golf course and kick my butt.
Yeah, and I really, one of my defaults is humor when I'm nervous, and I'm nervous. Like sitting in here, this is such a nice setup that you have at Traction Steam. I love it, and so that's why I threw a little dig. So sorry, bro.
Yeah, why I don't work for Traction Steam. Why do I gotta take a stray bullet through all this?
Well, because you're sitting there with, and obviously you've got more knowledge than I do because you've got like 18 computers sitting over there.
Incredible rig. I don't know how he does it.
Equipment and all that, and you're moving your hands around so fast.
Yeah. Well, my mom says good morning, so at least I have.
Oh, hey, good morning, Barb.
Hi, Barb.
Good to have you back. Our favorite.
We love your son. Sorry, I talked to, but never. I was going to say she might agree that he
could lift a little bit.
Yeah.
He was already popping out of his Star Wars outfit last week or two.
Oh, I was popping out in not a good way. My gut was about to pop out.
I bought.
I'm not one to talk.
I bought new dumbbells, like 20-pound dumbbells, because the 10-pound ones that I hadn't used in 10 years were too light. So I bought 20-pound ones, now they hold the stationary bike in place that I don't use. So if you feel these, I'm really talking to myself. It hurts. Enough about that.
It's well, let me just say, whatever he's doing to get in shape, we get out on the golf course, and it's all form. He really, Trey really thinks about form when he hits, and it's just, I'm what, a good 100 pounds heavier than you, and I'm about a couple inches taller than you, and we get in on the tee, and I hit, and I'm like, oh, that was a good shot. I'm pretty happy. Then Trey steps up, and it's 100 yards past almost every time, and he barely swings the club. He just does that. I call it old man golf. You're really good at old man golf, like solid shot every time, get down the thing.
That is because I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever, and so it has to be complete muscle memory, focus, and thought. So it really is. You can't think about anything else, and you've got to be in that rhythm and that flow to have that smoothness. So emptying yourself of anxiety, worries, concerns, and just swing away.
I love
it. But easy peasy, and I don't do that very often.
I usually just 2 or 3 beers, and then
that's how I empty myself of concern and anxiety. Unfortunately,
that's what they keep trying to tell me in men's league at Mount Pleasant Country Club, and they're like, "Well, have a beer," and I'm like, "So I'm kind of." I have an allergic reaction to beer. I get all flush in the face, and I get a light fever. I start sweating, but like the creepy just beads of sweat, Yep. And they're like, "What's wrong with the pastor?" And I'm like, 1 beer, and I just feel that way. And so I'm like, no. And someone was just telling me, they said, I had a buddy that had the same thing, and he found out that some of the lagers, like Bud Light, things like that, are made with rice. It's a rice beer.
Are you allergic to rice?
I don't know. No, I had biscotti last night. I had a bunch of it with the T-bone steak.
Oh, sounds delicious.
Mother's Day leftovers.
We've been doing fast food as we move furniture.
Oh.
I was telling Abigail the other day, we have way more furniture than when we moved up here from Texas, back home from Texas 5 years ago. And she said, well, that's what happens when you have teenagers. And I'm like, no, hon. That's what happens when the Vintage Raven and Jefferson Street Antique Mall are a block and a half away from our house. It was like so many. I mean, it's all beautiful old pieces.
Yeah, well, that's like, I'm trying to like, as Jade moved in, Sunday, I'm trying to get rid of things. Like, I'll just see if I can drop it off at Vintage Raven. And then I realized that I bought it from the Vintage Raven.
Win for them.
Bring it back.
So I'm more awesome. I more rented it for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, that's not a bad business plan, actually.
Rent antiques.
Renting antique furniture.
But then you have to have like a repo team.
But you just have
that would
a nice,
be a great A&E reality TV show, Antique Repo.
Antique Repo.
I think
we already have Antique Roadshow. We already have the Repo shows.
We just blend them together.
I like it. I bet you there's a market for. I'm sure it's already out there. Actually, if we look on
probably.
channel 746 or something on whatever show. But right here, you are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube and what else? Spotify?
Spotify after. Yeah. Not live, but after the fact, it's on Spotify.
Okay, nice. And we have all your fun events and weather and stuff to share with you real quick. Weather today actually is nice. You know, I don't recommend moving when it's 80 degrees or hotter and super humid. Like today would have been a great day to move your furniture.
Which isn't that what you said last Tuesday as well?
Yes, it's not been a good run.
So every time you're here, it's
been crazy.
Weather.
Yeah, exactly. Although this weekend wasn't too bad. It's just about every 2 hours it rained.
Yeah.
And so we would be watching the radar and being like, go.
That's what every time. Yeah, I think it's just every time you're set to move, it rains.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
There's never good weather when you're moving.
That's part of the deal. Yeah. But 58 and cloudy today. That's really good spring weather. What it does mean is that when the sun does come out, we're going to have a lot of tall grass. So get your mowers ready. Take them out to the Tom Hasenfritz Equipment Company and get those blades tuned up and all that kind of fun stuff, and be ready to mow your lawns because they're going to be tall grass this weekend. What else we got today? News. Oh, we have events.
Local events.
Yeah, local events. We have a walk to end arthritis. That is May 20th, 2023, 8 a.m. to noon at St. Alphonsus Catholic Church. Call Maureen Walsh at 319-931-0399. The fees and admission are $35, and it includes a T-shirt. In update, I just learned this. My son, Robbie, he has a little jazz group, and they're going to be playing at that morning. Cool. So they're all getting there at like 6 a.m. to set up and get all this stuff. And it's a bunch of it's a high school group of jazz folks. We actually have a couple of their friends coming up from Fort Madison because evidently there's a jazz club down there that high school kids participate in.
Really?
So yeah, it's going to be a fun thing at St. Al's this weekend if you guys can make it.
What does Robbie play?
He plays the double bass in that group.
Really?
Or pick it. I was like, no, it's like
cello.
Yeah. You pluck it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That is cool.
It's fun. It actually is pretty fun. It's pretty fun listening.
Is it like an upright bass?
Yeah. It's
my God. I love the sound of an upright bass.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's one of my favorite sounds.
It's in a jazz group. They're called the rhythm section. I didn't know that
I didn't know
it's
that.
Like they keep the
boom. Yeah, they do.
There's usually a drummer,
do that walking bass.
Yeah, exactly.
He can walk the bass.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that sound.
And they have this thing called I'm learning all this stuff in real time here. But they have this thing called comping.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Comp. That's new to me. Yeah. And you sort of do your own thing, but you know your chords and you just sort of go. And then they have solos that they do, and they have these books that they all read, and they sort of go off the book a little bit, and it's really fun to watch. I had no idea it was so cool. I always thought it was like elevator music, and I never wanted to listen to it. But now that I know what's going on, I could sit and listen to them for hours.
No, it's structure mixed with improvisation.
Yes, exactly.
What do they say? There's freedom in the form.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
A fun fact about me, I'm really into 70s Japanese jazz.
That is the most random fact I think you've ever thrown at us.
Yeah, that is
what?
That is not.
Look it up. 70s Japanese jazz is amazing.
That's incredible.
So imagine just like freeform jazz, but then add like a flute in there. Wow. Not a jazz flute from Anchorman,
but like a. Oh, Holly's here again as well. Holly for everybody. Hey, Holly. Also next week we have Lunch for a Cause, Help to Others. It's yet another amazing Addington Place event here in Mount Pleasant. It's May 25th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. It's the Lunch for a Cause, help to others. Join Addington Place in Mount Pleasant for their third Lunch for a Cause of 2023. On Thursday, May 25th, 11:30 to 1 o'clock, they will be serving a grilled hamburger with lettuce, tomato, and pickle, potato salad, resident-made fruit salad, and a freshly baked chocolate chip cookie via carry-out, order, or delivery.
Did they say who it goes to this month?
Help to Others, H2O. It's a nonprofit organization. I've seen them before. They give when people have a need. So I think they if someone has a disaster or like their house catches on fire or have a need to, whatever it may be in the community, I think they just get together and they get requests and they just give it.
Yeah, I know Addington was doing one. A couple months ago I went by there. They had barbecue and they were doing the music boosters, the local music boosters for the Mount Pleasant School District.
Addington's incredible.
They're doing a great job.
Connected, yeah. If you do want to place your carry-out or delivery order, please call 319-385-7227. Delivery option available on 4 or more group orders.
And it's all for $7.
$7? Oh, yeah, there it is. A meal will be $7.
That's a great deal for a burger, potato salad, fruit, and a cookie.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Addington Place crushing it once again. When we get back from commercial, we're going to talk about Trey and what Trey's been up to. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. Trey sort of crushes it too, and I think Trey will be the first to tell you it's not him that crushes it. It's his church community that crushes it, and others that get connected with Iowa Wins or helping little doggies and cats with different things, or doing prison ministry. All these things that you guys are very, very connected with in the community. But we're also going to talk about. I don't know. We may get into AI a little bit. I don't know. We're going to find out.
I love AI.
Do you love AI?
Yeah. Well, I love new technology. It's like an extension of your brain. Now your brain can literally do more and faster.
Yeah. This is going to be a very fascinating conversation we get back from commercial.
Demographics and work.
Oh, can we talk about Mount Pleasant demographics?
Economy, future economy.
Ooh, that would be okay, we're going to go there too.
Okay.
I like it. We got lots of fun stuff to talk about with Trey. We'll be back here in a moment.
Protection is important, especially when you're talking about your dreams, which is why we're going to keep you covered with plans that can save you up to 23% when you bundle your home and auto. That's protection.
Bring the kids and share the memories from steam engines, antique cars and trucks, tractors, gas engines, and horses. Maybe your memories are of great food from the North Village to the Log Village, or going to one of the amazing concerts. This is the place where memories are made. Make plans now to enjoy the history of the past at the 2023 Midwest Old Thrashers Reunion, August 31st through September 4th in Mount Pleasant. Visit oldthrashers.com for more details.
Unbelievable amount of devastation. I've never seen anything like it.
We had a beautiful barn that was gone in 20 minutes.
Farm Bureau stepped up right away and said, hey, we got you and we'll be there for you.
We were taken care of. Now we could get on to repairing and rebuilding.
I tell everybody about Farm Bureau.
We're fortunate to say we have good coverage with good people doing it.
Contact Farm Bureau agents Tony Starr and Mike Welcher in Mount Pleasant today.
And welcome back to Mount Pleasant Live with our guest, Trey Hager today. Welcome. It's good to have you in the studio, Trey.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I was a little dangerous, I must admit. Trey's a good buddy of mine, and we talk about everything. I think we
covered the gambit.
Yeah, we covered the gambit. And so I wasn't quite sure how the morning would go. And so I texted Nick last night and said, I got Trey. It's a big win. He's gonna be fun to have on the show this morning. And Nick's like, what are we gonna talk about? And I'm like, I literally have no idea, because it could go anywhere.
It could.
Yeah.
It could. I'm random like that, and I'm a yapper, and I have my hands on a whole lot of different pots.
Let's start with that first. Just to be clear, we do try to avoid religion and politics on the show, just to keep
it's wise.
When I was a lobbyist for the Iowa Catholic Conference, I couldn't talk about work because literally it was church and politics. So I'm used to not doing it, as I literally bring it up on live streaming.
Like I said, I usually don't talk about it unless someone else brings it up.
It's fair. It's fair. So we will try to avoid it a little bit, but I think it's important for our listeners to know who you are, what your role is in the community. So share a little bit about yourself if you don't know, for those who don't know you, which I'm not sure there's many people in Mount Pleasant who don't know you.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who know of me, which, that's part of the thing that's hard of living in a small community is when you go somewhere, you don't realize how many people know you and you don't know them.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot with like my son Hudson. He's got special needs. He's pretty identifiable for those who know him or work in the school district. And people will say, Hudson, and they'll be like, what's up? And they'll look at me and they're like, oh, are you Hudson's dad? And I'm like, I love that. I love that. So yeah, I'm a dad, a husband. I've got my son Hudson. He's 11. He's got cerebral palsy and autism, and so we are fully enmeshed in his caregiving. He's fully dependent on us for eating, feeding, bathing, getting dressed, all that. Even at 11, can't talk. He communicates in his own way. So that's a daily challenge and a daily joy for us. I also have a guardian daughter, Evelyn, who is 17, and is a lot like me as a 17-year-old. So I was the kid at probably 14, 15 that your mom told you, you can't ride around with me in my car because
those friends. Yep.
Right. And if anything, you were the bad influence, right? And I was the one driving.
Sure.
But then your mom was saying, oh, you get in trouble when you're hanging out with that boy. Yeah. And I'm like, but it's your son. It's his fault, right? But I get I was blessed with a guardian daughter who was a lot like me.
Yeah.
And the blessings and woes of that, but I also know how to love her, and kind of take her under my wing and say, I get it. And I can kind of empathize with her. And I think a lot of parents go through that when they have adolescents. The adolescent thinks, oh, this is new. I'm they don't know. And the parents are like, oh my gosh, they're nothing, this isn't half of what I did.
Right.
And so, it's like the parents have done it. And so they're looking at the kids saying, oh geez, just rolling their eyes. And that's kind of neat. So we've got those two at home. And then we've got, I grew up in, urban Houston, Texas. So 8 million people, but a small community in the suburbs. It felt like a small town.
I just got to point this out. I got to point this out real quick. So I live in Dallas for 10 years, and there is a unhealthy rivalry between Dallas and Houston, and a healthy rivalry too. It's sort of like Mount Pleasant and Washington, or Mount Pleasant and Fairfield, but on steroids, right? Like, it's really intense. And I just want to point out that Trey just said 8 million people, because they have to pretend they're bigger than the Dallas metro area. Otherwise, something's wrong with that. So I don't know if you want to Google the population of Houston, Texas.
Well, I think Houston has like
4 million or 3 million. But
okay, we're going to do metro.
Metro.
Right. Oh, you want to use the county, because it's all one big county.
So
Harris County.
Well, Houston itself has 2.288 million people.
Right.
That's just Houston.
What's Harris County? And then what's the metro? Because there's
metro.
Yeah, because it goes into Montgomery and a few other
So
counties.
Harris County is 4.7 million.
So definitely do metro area then.
Yeah, because now we're talking about Galveston, Houston, Conroe, Sugar Land, Pearland.
We're not going up to College Station, though. That's not the metro area.
No, College Station. No, you pass a couple cow fields and oil dairies.
Greater Houston has 7.1 million.
7.1
million. Okay, so Dallas, Fort Worth.
Oh, so now you're throwing in Fort Worth.
It's all a competition at this point.
Dallas Fort Worth is 7.6 million.
Oh, really? 7.6? And he threw out 8 earlier. Surprise. The Houstonite had to just be a little bigger than Dallas.
It takes 2 cities to get there.
You said
You said Metroplex.
Yeah, true. Well, you're
2 large cities. Okay, 2 large cities. This is
fair.
Houston just engulfing everything. But there's really no competition. One is clearly better at football. Yeah. And even though they're not the best at football, the Cowboys, because the Houston team
in their heads they're better. They're the most egotistical team on the planet.
Well, but you need to be.
True.
You need to be, right? You've got to have that confidence to do what they do. But the Houston Oilers, they were the Love You Blue. They were the Houston team, and Houston let them go, kind of like St. Louis did with the Rams. They didn't fight for their team. And then the Rams went off and won a Super Bowl. Well, Houston went to Tennessee, became the Titans, and we had nothing for years. So Houston folks had to become Dallas fans, and they ended up winning. Big time. And so all of these Houstonians jumped onto the Dallas bandwagon, and I think that ended the rivalry. And when the Texans came along, the Houston Texans, they are awful.
Yeah, it's like a little brother scenario now.
Well, and it is. And in this little brother, I'm like, you need to step up.
Yeah.
Right? You need to step up, and they just they can't for whatever reason it is. The ownership, the management won't do what they need to do to build that whole team. It reminds me a lot about economies. Sometimes you have to take those steps to put yourself in a winning situation.
Did he just do an incredible transition?
The best transition we've ever had.
That was fantastic. I suck at transitions on the show, as all of our listeners know. There's probably going to be a like or love button or a down button going up. Holly Ferry just disliked my comment. Hi, Holly. I didn't know you're. That said. So, where do you want to go on that topic? You want to talk about Southeast Iowa and economy? Do you want to talk about how we as a community recover from the loss of Iowa Wesleyan? Like, where do you want to go? I'm throwing stuff out.
No. If you want to, I'm interested on what your guys' takes are. There are some super, super smart people who have their finger on the pulse of the future economy,
right?
And that's something that I look at a lot as a leader, as someone who feels like I'm called not only to serve my vocation here, but my vocation is to be for a whole area, for a community, right? So it's not just about this one particular institution; it's about every neighbor,
right?
And so when we look at being a community presence, when I look at being a community presence, I try to look at the bigger picture. I'm a big picture guy, and so I look 20 years out, and I'm going, okay, so what's next? How do we get to, let's say, 2043, and we're doing well as a whole community, not just certain parts of it, right? But as a whole community, how can we bring everyone forward, and what does that look like? And for everyone, it looks like having a cyclical economy.
Yep.
And so how do we create that, and how do we maintain it, and what are the things that we need to do now in order to be in that position in 2043 where we're healthy, where we're vibrant.
Right.
And so, I'd love to talk about that stuff. And one of the big factors for us as a community right now is Iowa Wesleyan. It's also our manufacturing. It's also our small businesses, our restaurants, our school systems. And we see a lot of nonprofits coming to our area or having success in our area, and that's not necessarily good. It's not bad.
Right.
But that means that people are needing supplements of some kind, whether it's psychological, emotional, physical, whether it's food, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's employment stuff. There is some need for people with the ability to help others to step in and empower people.
Right.
And so what is that? And then how do we wean ourselves off of it where people are able to maintain a quality of life? And that's different for everyone, but how do we get to that big healthy place?
That's brilliant. I used to my wife has taught me a lot. I'm sure yours has too over the years. She's about to finish her doctorate in social work, but it's a lifelong social work.
I talked to your wife about special needs demographics.
Right. Yeah. Demographics is a big piece of that. And but she'll tell you all the time, nonprofits are really important, and most social workers live and work in that nonprofit world. But ultimately, the number one solution for all of it, in addition to mental health, in addition to basic needs and social safety nets, all the kind of stuff that those nonprofits serve. The number one solution that would take care of a lot of it is people making a decent paycheck and being able to bring money in to support their families, right? And that gets right back into a cyclical economy where people can go to work, they can get a decent paycheck, they can pay their bills, they can live a happy, healthy life is really important. And Mount Pleasant's experienced that before. We've had that. We had it in the late 70s. We had it in the pre-recession 80s. We saw it again in the early 2000s and late 90s. And you can literally look at the graphs and we sort of go up and down. And there's been causes of those ups and causes of those downs, large, huge causes like closing of universities, that kind of thing that'll give us a down here and there. But it really is there's these moments when the community comes together and focuses on it and really works to make a vibrant economy with intention, that you see those ups again. And I feel like we're at that point where the community's starting to really come together and say, hey, we've been sort of taking some stuff for granted. We can't anymore. We have to start thinking about our community, our economy, in addition to our social services and our nonprofits. Are you getting that feeling? Is that sort of why it's on your mind lately, or what's driving this conversation lately?
So I would say one, and for me as a leader of a nonprofit, and actually it's really like leading 3 or 4 different nonprofits. Yeah, we've got a lot of things going on there. That interest on driving the economy comes from needing nonprofits to be self-sustaining in some way, because you're wanting to help people who don't have the resources to compensate you for that help.
Right.
But you're also not wanting to be a drain on the economy that you're trying to build. And so you don't want to be constantly asking for grants, for donations, for things like that. So you want to be able to generate some of your own revenue by providing services or things that people need out when they're able to purchase those things or afford those goods and services, but you're also able to employ people. So you're creating meaningful jobs and you're paying good wages for the people that you hire. And so what does that look like as you start to grow those things? So some of the best businesses that I've been a part of in my life, and I don't have tons of experience in the business world, but a lot of my family does. And so I learned from them. The businesses, their model was basically to provide a living for their immediate family and then their employees. We're talking small businesses that did some big business, but then their employees became like family. We're talking about celebrating the birth of a child with one of your employees and going to a championship T-ball game, because that's what you do when you're in these small communities. And it wasn't about what they were making. And it wasn't always about the bottom line, or that was part of it. It was about the quality of life that everyone had within that community. And I think as a nonprofit, we can be one of the drivers for a good quality of life. So the question I was posed to one time was, what's the biggest need in your community? And this is when I lived in South Carolina, economically depressed part of the country.
Right.
This was rural South Carolina, still kind of antebellum South, very gone with the windish. And, there's this side of the railroad track and that side of the railroad track. And it was all cotton mills. Well, the cotton mills had all been exported through the globalization of cotton, the textile industry. There were 7 mills, and they used to make socks, sheets, T-shirts, things like that, all gone.
Right.
And this was in a town of about 9,000. The population dwindled to about 5,000. And the thing there was, when people asked, what's the biggest need in your community, everyone would say jobs.
Right.
And this was in a place where the population rate had severely dwindled from the working population. So anyone that could get a better job and leave did.
Right.
And so you were left with the elderly, the uneducated, or the grandfathered in. So you had families living in homes that had been owned for 3 generations, right? These homes built in the late 1800s, and you still had people out in the country living on kerosene,
Right.
and so if the need isn't, let's say, religion, or it's not just food, because there was a good resource there for food and things like that, and people weren't going hungry. They needed jobs, they needed dignity. And so we asked ourselves as a nonprofit, can we create jobs? Can we create a microeconomy where people are doing the work themselves, finding what gifts they have, what skills they have? Are they mechanically minded? Are they data driven? And can they apply that in some way to help others? And we did, and we had a lot of success with it, and it transcended who we were. So it crossed race, it crossed politics, it crossed religion, and people were just like, no, we need this.
I love that.
And so you could put aside any of these other things, and everyone could say, yeah, this is a common good. We need to create jobs. And so you end up building an economy based on helping people get a hand up. And having them participate in some of your supplemental nonprofit business stuff as they're learning a skill.
Yep.
And then working themselves into a job, and hopefully out of your system,
Right.
and into another one.
I love that. That's a fantastic model, and I think that actually fits really well with some of the stuff my wife always tells me about of client involved social services. Right? It's a classic Habitat for Humanity model where they're helping build the house.
That's right.
As you're building it, right, and they're learning those skills and able to eventually do it themselves and then get a job themselves and so on. So it's that nice sort of mix of both.
What every employer is going to tell you is finding those people who are willing to do that.
Right.
So I was talking with one of our local business owners, and he was saying he needs somebody that has a certain skill set that can do some online stuff, right? Because everything's gone digital. So you have to have a marketplace on the internet these days. You just do. Well, he doesn't have somebody with the skills to be able to take that to the next level. He has a guy that can do the basic IT stuff, that can set the business page, that can update stuff. But then how do you start doing the marketing to where you're driving some business out to customers and you're reaching a new audience? How do you do that in a small community? And finding somebody with that skill set to do that's hard. And then when you find somebody, do they show up the next day?
Yeah.
Right. And we're finding more and more that's hard, that you have a lot of able-bodied people who, for some reason, aren't willing to show up to do the work. Even if it benefits them, even if it benefits their family and the larger community. And you go, well, so what's going on? What's going on with people when we have, they talk about unemployment rate, right? You're hearing that we're at one of our lowest unemployment rates ever. And yet, when I drive around, I see a lot of people not working, right? If you go to Walmart in the middle of the day, if you go drive by one of the elementary schools or the middle school, right when school gets out, you see a lot of working age individuals not at work. What is that, right? And they're also not on unemployment. Right. So they're not filing for benefits. They're not trying to collect a workers' comp check or something like that. They're nowhere in the system. And that's something that our unemployment system doesn't report on. Our unemployment numbers are based on how many people are applying for unemployment.
Right.
It doesn't count the ones who have dropped off 6 months later. So what is our real unemployment rate?
Yeah. And there's data to look at that too, because the work has changed. Mm-hmm. You look at at home work, where people are working different hours. They're not doing 9-to-5 jobs anymore. They're online. They're at nighttime working, so they might be out enjoying a cup of coffee on their front porch during the day. So that could be an issue. It could be they have a spouse or somebody who's working and they're staying at home and enjoying the moment for your kids. It could be all kinds of stuff. But the key for us is to understand what that is. What is driving the economy? What's driving our situation, and understanding it instead of really judging it. I think a lot of people see folks sitting outside and they're like, oh, they're just lazy, right? And I think diving into the reason behind those issues and what's the new social norms and economic norms that we're in right now. But we got to take a commercial here real quick. So we'll come back because this is a fascinating and pretty deep conversation to look into. So we'll be right back.
At 5 Star Community Credit Union, we want to help you lead a better life. We offer competitive rates and convenient appointment times for all kinds of loans: auto, recreational vehicles, home equity, line of credit, holiday, and personal loans. We make it easy to build your credit and enjoy the good things in life.
We invite you to join 5 Star Community Credit Union. We are community-minded and member-focused. Come visit our locations in West Burlington and Mount Pleasant or online at 5starcu.org. Federally insured through the NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Brown Shoe Fit, we pride ourselves on traditional sit and fit service that's been serving the Mount Pleasant area since 1952. At Brown's, we have shoes for the whole family. From kids to adults, we carry the finest footwear for every occasion. Whether you're looking for something for work, casual wear, or exercise, we've got you covered. And don't forget about our selection of safety toe footwear for both men and women. Come visit us 6 days a week and experience the best in traditional sit and fit service. Brown Shoe Fit, where quality and tradition meet.
Welcome back to Mount Pleasant Live. We're here with Nick Steffens and our incredible guest, Trey Hager. We're diving into economics, social issues. I told everybody at the beginning of the show, it's going to get interesting. It's always a fascinating conversation with Trey. And I really hope as we have future episodes, we can get you back on the show because you have this really unique perspective of being sort of tapped into the whole community and a macro level and micro level. Do you feel that way as with your role as a pastor and just as a community member?
Yeah, I do. I feel like, at least for me as a type of person I am, I'm a big picture guy.
Yep.
And so I really try to look at that and I try to get along with absolutely everyone. I have nothing, in and of myself where my ego needs to be alpha and on top. And so I look at anyone from a CEO of one of our businesses to someone who is cleaning floors. We're all the same,
right?
But we're all different, right? I'm different like everybody else. It's one of my favorite sayings.
I love it.
And yeah, you're special. I'm special. Well, what makes us special if we're all special? Well, that's what's special.
That actually leads really well to what we were talking about earlier, and sort of the progression we were going with. I think in terms of direction is we're at this point in our community where we do need to come together as a community and sort of with intention help to revitalize our economy, our social structures that have, because of the closing of West Liberty Foods, the closing of Iowa Wesleyan, we're sort of in a shock right now, and it's really important that we do, but come with those egos put aside. To your point, and where everyone has a voice, they're able to bring their values to the table and their skill set and so on to the table and drive us forward in some good way. So do you have any ideas on what next steps could be or where we're going with stuff?
I do. So one big blessing is that somebody stepped in and took over the West Liberty stuff. And so a new business is going to contract there and they're advertising for new employees. And that's wonderful because that would have been another 300 jobs or something. Plus on top of Wesleyan, you hit that critical turning point when you lose so many jobs, all these other dominoes are going to fall. So I do have some ideas about that. And it comes down to creativity, imagination, intelligence, and love.
Right. Yeah.
And you start with that last one. You're doing good things for your community, even with your business, even with your kind of personal mission. It starts with that last piece, that love piece, and that's your foundation because your why is the most important thing. And so when you're taking on something to do it, why is a good question. So do you remember when you were 4 years old? You don't, because cognitively you can't. And there's a reason, because you got on everybody's nerves. Because you were constantly saying, why? Why?
Oh, yeah.
When I was 4 years old, I could imagine building a spacecraft that could fly through space and come close to the speed of light without the mass transforming into light.
Sure.
I could imagine that in my head, and under my little blanket, I had a glow stick, and I would pretend like I was that spaceship. I was flying it, and I doosh, right through the atmosphere. Then I tell my dad, I'm going to fly a spaceship close to the speed of light. And he said, well, you can't do that. And I would say, why? And he would say, well, because you're going to need fuel. And I said, so what if we took a gas that was lighter than the current gases we're using, and because there's no resistance in space, there's no force acting against you, you could do microbursts, like little farts, over and over and over again. And because there's no resistance, you're constantly speeding up.
Sure.
Right? And you could envision that.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So you're harvesting your own food, you're using your own methane to propel yourself forward through space, and as
farting your way through space.
Yeah. And when someone tells you you can't, you say, why?
Right.
And then you figure out why you can't, and you say, I've got a solution around that, because you're 4 and you're really dumb, but you're really imaginative. You're really imaginative, and you can find a workaround.
Right.
Well, you can't do it like that, because if you go the speed of light, how will you slow down? Exactly. You've got to eat a lot of beans to slow that ship down.
Turn around, is that the idea? And then start farting the other
how
way.
long will it take you to turn around? A whole galaxy,
Depends on how far you're going, right?
It is.
Yeah.
But none of that matters unless you ask why. Why do you want to do that?
Right.
And the why is because it's fun.
Right.
Because you're wanting to have an adventure. You're wanting to do something. So you remember when you were 16, 17? Let's go, because kids are maturing. They're hitting out. My son's starting puberty early.
Sure.
He's 11. Oh my gosh.
Is he farting all the time? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we won't get into that. But so no, just other things.
Other thing, yeah. I hear
He
you.
doesn't want my smooches as much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you remember when you were adolescents, right? So you were impulsive.
Right.
You had big issues with impulse control. Like one of the reasons your mom might have told you that you couldn't hang out with me is because you lacked impulse control, and I would get blamed for the stuff that you did.
Yep, that sounds
right.
That sounds
like the time we were going through the neighborhood, and we were with some kids and some other adolescents, and they would say, like, we would do dumb things. Like we found out that in chemistry class that if you took hydrochloric acid and you put it in a 2-liter empty bottle of Pepsi, and you put just about this much in there, about 2 inches.
Oh yeah.
And then you dropped a piece of aluminum foil in there, and then you put the cap on
and run.
Well, so we did, but then nothing happened, right?
Oh,
so we sat on the curb, and we're just waiting. Right? And we're just watching this bottle, and it's starting to grow slowly. It's expanding. Well, 30 minutes later, it's about 4 foot long, and it's got these. It was just a 2-liter bottle, like a Mountain Dew bottle. It's got.
They made them differently back then. Yeah.
It's expanded to about 2 or 3, 4 feet long, and it's got this bulbous end on it, and you can tell it's about to go.
Right.
And then, boom. And it releases this mushroom cloud like 50 feet into the air and about 50 feet wide. And we're sitting on the curb adjacent to this thing, and we are running. And we didn't know what would happen.
Right.
We were just experimenting. And that type of willingness to do something risky and fun and to experiment and to learn, that's something that we have in our adolescent mindset, and we don't overthink it, right? Because you remember your parents would often tell you, that boy just doesn't think it through, right? I would get that a lot about my friends or myself. But putting that imagination of that childhood imagination along with the risk-taking of that adolescent mindset, with well-informed decision-making that we know how to do now, researching and doing things like that, but you have to act.
And there was a great example just last week I got to be part of this exact thing happening, which gives me a lot of hope on where we're going. So I got to sit in on.
You can hear his voice; he's getting serious.
No, it really was. It was so cool because what you're saying it strikes a chord really close. A bunch of folks from all across Southeast Iowa gathered in Fairfield last week, and they met to talk about a regional food web. And these are producers. These are the Mogo Organics of the region. They're pork producers, but small organic pork producers. It's industrial level farmers, like large scale farmers who are looking to add a niche market to their fields or to their using an old hog barn or whatever it may be to grow something new and different, but having limited access to a distribution system to get those products to market because it's so dominated by these large ones out of California, right? And by a couple different supply chains that everybody's relying on. And the guy that opened up the remarks said almost the exact same thing you said. It's like, we create our own economies.
Right.
We have the ability to build whatever we want. And in recent years, we've let someone else do it for us.
Yes.
And we have the ability now, especially because there's economic issues happening all across Southeast Iowa.
Right.
And there is now the willpower to do it. And it was 60 business owners. And then we're talking small farmer, large farmers, retailers, like restaurant owners, distribution groups, like the whole nine, your grocery store folks. Everyone was there. And like, yeah, we need to take our market back. And we need to figure out how to tap into the national and global markets as well. But we need to get it back to where we're in control of it a little bit. And we spent the whole day planning out how we do that with creative ideas and thoughts and throwing stuff on the wall and just seeing what's stuck. And by the end of the day, we didn't have it all solved, but we had a path forward using that creative approach that you just described. We didn't blow up a huge thing of Mountain Dew, but it felt like we were being creative and having fun and taking some risks. So I thought that was brilliant.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Right. I'm all about planning, planning, communicating, doing that stuff, having the fun, doing that work. But where that often stops is follow through.
Right.
So someone has got to follow through
right.
with some of these creative and good ideas. And that's where it gets hard because it takes years. It's like watching that bottle to grow and expand. And you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And for someone like me, I'm moving on to the next thing before this one has time to bloom, has time to be harvested until you reap your benefits. Like it takes a long time to grow something. And so, but you've got to have that follow through. And that's where that adolescent naivety comes into play is that you will just do it. And here's the amazing thing is, when you were that 4-year-old, you could process so fast. Now, you don't remember any of this because you were so busy processing external information because it was also new that you weren't doing these self-reflective conversations where you would have a permanent memory of yourself. You were too busy processing this outside information. But when like your dad said you can't fly that fast in space because of fuel, you could process how you could, why you could, and what you needed to do like that
adjustment.
And you know, as an adolescent, you could do the same thing. And when they told you can't think, you can't think through consequences.
Right.
You can't think through every consequence. And as adults, we try to do that to the point that we never start.
Yeah, exactly.
You never start. And so you've got to get to the point where you are comfortable with the language of experiment and adaptation.
And action.
And action. You have, at some point, you've got to cut the rope. You've got to do the fall. You've got to take the leap of faith. You've got to start the action, or else all that talk and planning. Yeah. So how many times have you heard of a 2-year discernment process? Or we're going to discern for the next 6 months, right? And the only thing you're going to do is use a lot of human resources. You're going to use a lot of energy because your mind uses more energy than physical strength, when really what you need to do is to quit talking, quit discerning, but know that we are fast processing people, right? We can process like that. We know a lot of the consequences and the goods and the bads and the others and the how-tos in seconds.
Right.
Not months. In seconds. And I think that's something that we forgot to honor because there's all this fear of what about
Gotta get it perfect before we. Yeah.
You got to get it perfect before you actually start. And the way you make something perfect is actually by starting and then refining.
Right.
And
real quick though, before we get too far down the road, because we have been doing a lot of talking, and we're pretty well out of time in terms of our.
I have half a cup of coffee.
I know. But
you can just splice it and do another one.
Well, we're live. That's the problem.
Hey.
So what I'd like to do is if we could, Trey, just have you on every once in a while and continue this conversation, but also talk about a lot of the fun action that we have been done in the community between that time, because you're especially the congregation that you get to be a leader and participant in does exactly that. They definitely take action. They have all kinds of programs and stuff that they're doing in real time. It's constantly changing and constantly growing.
Yeah, and it's not just the congregation. There are a lot of community leaders who we partner with. Right. And they're never going to be Presbyterian. They're never going to go to a church, but they believe in the why.
Right.
And that's something that transcends just my people. Now, I've got wonderful congregation members, but they're getting older, right?
And a shout out, I know he's not one of your congregational members, but a person that lives that example who just got named Small Business of the Year this year here in Mount Pleasant is Jason Goody with Wilson Distributing. And I think when you mentioned that why as part of
his heart,
their business plan and how they do engage with the community, like that fit exactly what you're talking about and the perfect example of how we can grow. But
Little League coach.
Was he? Yeah, he's an incredible guy. That whole family's amazing. That said, though, we actually have a quick. So right now we have this ongoing quiz thing that we do. I want to have a little bit more fun. I know we've been a pretty serious and amazing conversation, but I want to do a little quiz with you right at the end, and then we'll have you back again to continue these kind of conversations.
I'm nervous
as we go. So you want to explain it?
So we have the birthday game. I'm going to put a celebrity whose birthday is today on the screen. You have to guess their age. If you're within 3 years, you get a point. If you get it right on, you get 2 points. Are you ready?
But I get to guess too.
Okay.
I want to finally beat you at something. You kick my butt at golf every time we play. So I'm going to do my best to see if I can take you out in one game.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay, first up we have Megan Fox.
Who?
Yeah, this is Megan Fox. Transformers. What else is she in?
Jennifer's Body.
Okay.
It's a horror movie.
Horror movie? Okay. I have no idea.
I know John Brown's body isn't. So I'm going to say that she's 36 because she has a tattoo that says Spotify.
That does not what that does not say.
It looks like Spotify.
It says Apostle.
Apostle?
Apostle.
Apostole.
Toli. Apostoli. Is that what that says?
Aristotle? You sure it's apostle? Okay. I'm going to go with 40.
I say 36.
She is 37. So you guys both get a point?
I was close.
You were close, but
I don't make the rules.
It's within,
and he went over.
It's within 3 years.
Price is right. You can't go over.
Just saying right now.
Within 3 years.
Price is wrong, Mike.
Explained before we started the game, Trey. Just saying.
Next up, we have Janet Jackson.
Oh,
sorry, Miss Jackson.
Sorry, Miss Jackson. That was a different band, but
yeah,
we all just aged ourselves.
Yeah, Janet Jackson.
Who goes first?
It's your turn now. Well, we should be alternating. We usually don't, but okay. So you go first.
Oh, I go first this time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Janet Jackson is 47. No, 50. No, I changed my mind.
Holly just gave me away.
I hadn't taken my
look of like what.
I'm going to say she's 56.
61.
Wow.
She is 57. So hop out to 2-1 lead.
Because I got to change.
Holly.
I forgot that she was older than my sister.
This is all pixelated.
That
guy. Danny Trejo.
Oh, he's awesome. He's one of my
Looks a little bit better
actors.
on the live stream, but it's pixelated here.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's
my first this time?
Yep.
We didn't talk about AI, but he was the first AI generated actor.
Oh, was he? Actually, I could actually see that. I'm going to go with he's 58.
Wow. I'm going to go with 63.
I went too young. I know he's older than that.
He is 79.
Yeah, I wasn't even.
Wow. Is he really?
So still have a 2-1 lead.
Okay.
Next up, we have